Welcome to the Session Guitarist Picked Acoustic walkthrough. Picked Acoustic comes with a library of 194 picking and strumming patterns and a second instrument that allows you to play your own melodies and patterns. The entire library was recorded with 3 different microphone setups, and the effects section has been improved for added sonic variety. If you're looking for a specific topic, we've added a table of contents in the description. Clicking on one of the links below will take you directly to the corresponding section of this video. To start with, let's take a quick look at the pattern instrument. If you've used one of the previous Session Guitarist libraries before, you should feel right at home. Select patterns via the key switches and play chords over a range of 3.5 octaves. As you can hear, the instrument creates smooth transitions between patterns without interrupting the playback, so you can combine multiple patterns into one continuous performance. When triggering chords at a maximum velocity, a slide will automatically be added. Clicking on the song name leads us to the song browser. Double-click one of the song presets to load a set of patterns, and if Link to Song is enabled, loading a song will also load its corresponding sound preset. To choose a different sound preset, simply select it in the menu. Let's have a look at the melody instrument. The key switches from C1 to D♯1 give access to the main articulations: open, muted, flageolet, and tremolo. All articulations were recorded with fingers and plectrum, so we can choose between the 2 sample sets by clicking the toggle switch. Note that repeating the same note while holding down the sustain pedal of our MIDI controller will not trigger multiple overlapping samples. Instead, the instrument emulates the muting of the string just before the new note is plucked, just like on a real guitar. The monophonic mode creates authentic sounding transitions between overlapping notes, so try this mode whenever you're playing single-note melodies. If the second of the 2 overlapping notes is played with a softer velocity than the previous one, the instrument interprets this as a hammer-on or pull-off. Succeeding overlapping notes will be hammer-on or pull-offs as well, which makes it easy to create trills and ornamentations. Holding down the B key switch will add a slide at the beginning of each note. Let's add vibrato with the mod wheel to accentuate some of the notes. Let's have a look at the Guitar Settings tab. Right now, the accompanying guitar is using the condenser AV microphone setup. Let's switch over to the ribbon mics and enable stereo doubling for a wider and softer sound. The melody is played with fingers using the condenser AV microphone setup. Let's add a second melody on the left-hand side played with plectrum and using the dynamic microphone setup. Here's the full arrangement with all 3 guitars and some added percussion. Let's open the pattern browser to preview and load patterns. Filter by playing style, articulation, and time signature, or enter a rhythm into the pattern search strip to find a list of compatible patterns. Holding down the Alt key will repeat the rhythm entered from the step that you clicked on. The icons by the pattern name indicate whether the pattern is a picking pattern or a strum pattern. The staircase is a picking, and the up and down arrow indicates a strumming pattern. To compare different patterns, we can flip through the library during playback. Once a pattern is loaded, you can adjust it to your needs in the pattern inspector. All picking patterns can be played with fingers or plectrum in open, muted, or flageolet articulation. To play the pattern in the higher position on lower strings, try adjusting the fret position value. This will create a darker, more intimate sound. You can use the end step parameter to shorten a loop or offset its timing using the shift control. You can also adjust the volume or switch a pattern into double or halftime mode. By default, patterns are played back using the voicing generator. You can choose a different voicing in the voicing drop-down menu. The Auto Chords module creates chords from a single note on the fly. Set the key of your song in the drop-down menus, trigger chords using the white keys, and modify or add options using the black keys. Some of the voicing presets enable the emulation of open tunings like DADGAD or Open C. Here's how this works. In DADGAD, the strings are tuned to D, A, D, G, A, and D, and the typical key for this tuning would be D major. Changing the notes on the lowest two strings will be enough to play most of the chords we'd like to use in a typical song, while the pitches of the higher open strings will always stay the same. To emulate the sound of open tunings with voicing presets, look out for voicings with an asterisk next to some of the intervals listed in the voice menu. Those are the notes which will remain the same, just like the high strings in an open tuning. Make sure that Auto Chords mode is engaged and set to the key of your song to ensure that the open strings are played back in the right key. Now we can create chord progressions in open tunings by playing single notes on the keyboard. Let's have a closer look at the melody instrument. As you can see, the instrument includes 4 pattern slots in addition to the melody key switches. Holding down one of the pattern keys will engage the pattern mode. Release the key and the instrument will return to melody mode. We can reverse this behavior by choosing Pattern as the default mode in the Playback tab. Now patterns are played by default, and holding down a melody key switch temporarily puts the instrument into melody mode, allowing us to add licks or fill-ins to a performance. Here's what you can do to make the performance sound as authentic as possible. The pattern feature works best when using the instrument within the DAW. Set the tempo, turn on your metronome, and play along. This will ensure that a pattern will start in the correct beat, instead of restarting at the first beat every time we transition from a melody into a pattern. Make sure that the fret position and playing style of your melodies match those of the selected pattern. There are a couple of extra key switches below the playing range of the melody instrument. We've already looked at the B key switch, which adds a slide at the beginning of the next note. Depending on the pitch of the previous note, this will either be an upward or downward slide. For slides at the end of a note, we can trigger either the A or the G sharp key switch. A soft velocity will create a slow slide, and a hard velocity will create a fast slide. Triggering the A or G sharp key switches while no notes are sounding will create a regular slide. The B flat key crossfades from knuckle rap to slapping the strings with the thumb. The Effects tab reveals the effects chain, including the new plate reverb and replica delay. We can change the order via drag and drop, load new effects from the effects browser, and tweak and bypass effects in the inspector below. To To hear the unprocessed signal, we can bypass or clear the entire effects chain. And of course, we can save our own settings to a new preset, which includes not only the effects chain settings, but also the guitar settings tab, including the selected microphone, stereo doubling, stereo width settings, and more. Thanks for watching. We hope that you have enjoyed this picked acoustic walkthrough. Leave any questions in the comments and head over to the Native Instruments website to listen to the audio demos.